Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I want to announce that there's no action report on closed session. This is a special meeting that we have, and we have a few minutes to conduct this meeting before we go into our study session. We have a routine action agenda A. Is there any board members that want to pull any of the items? Any people from the audience would like to pull any items? Maria?
No, President Nava.
Okay, I need a motion.
Move to approve consent agenda A.
Been moved by Gary Knacksack, second by Ron Heberly.
No, but I will.
Okay, I did. Okay, let's go for a board vote.
I can't vote.
I can't either.
No.
Okay, let's go by voice, okay?
Why don't you roll call it?
I'll roll call it. Mr. Freitas? Mr. Freitas?
Aye.
Mr. Heberly?
Aye.
Mr. Knacksack?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Neely?
Aye.
Mr. Porter?
Aye.
And Mr. Nalman, yes, aye. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, we have a report. Actually, this report was, it's an item that we had, hold on. I lost my script here.
You call on Mr. Khan if you'd like.
Okay. This is a resolution, a designation applicants agreement or resolution on non-state agencies. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, President Nava, Dr. Washer, members of the board. This is a necessary resolution for the district to be able to apply for FEMA funding during the coronavirus episode, if or when that funding does become available. This document needs to be passed by the board before April 17th. So business does appreciate President Nava's and Dr. Washer's willingness to put it on the agenda tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Any questions from the board? Is there any questions from the audience?
No, President Nava, no questions from the audience on.
Okay, being none, I need a motion on this action item.
Mr. Nava, I move to approve other action item number 1.
Mr. Knacksack? Mr. Neely, second the motion. Let's go with board vote. Mr. Freitas?
Aye.
Mr. Heberly?
Yes.
Mr. Knacksack?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland? Did we lose her, Susan?
I'm here. I apologize. Aye.
Okay. Mr. Neely?
Aye.
Mr. Porter?
Aye.
And Mr. Nava votes aye. Motion carries 7-0. That concludes our business with our special meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn this special meeting?
I'll motion it.
Mr. Porter motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Neely. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Our special meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene and go into our study session meeting from this login.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
just a technicality, the study session is scheduled for 6:15.
That's correct. I see that. We got 3 minutes.
I do suggest that you wait, just for technicality.
We will wait.
We're gonna need to check out of this again.
No, stay there.
Stay there.
All right.
I'm taking a break.
Get your water.
I have a quick question. I cannot at least manipulate
I can't
the
either.
agendas, and I think
Yeah.
Edith is in it.
I can't either.
And it looks like she's moving it, so it's like someone's commandeered my computer.
I'm
That's
exactly the
correct.
same, Susan.
I have the same screen, but
Yes.
I actually open up under the ESB portal tab that I have.
Yeah.
Mine will not allow that.
Mine doesn't move up or down.
Yep.
This is Michael. I believe what you're looking at is actually the meeting's display view, which is being displayed from here. So that's actually someone else's computer. That's why you're not able to manipulate it.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
So what do we do?
That's just the display unit. If you needed to go to, you'd want to go to the ESB. If you want to go to the agenda yourself, go to the ESB and log into the agenda yourself. But that's what we're going to be displaying from.
I can't do that because she doesn't have it under the chat. Does she have it under the chat thing?
It's under the chat, but we can't get out and manipulate our own computer.
Yeah, you can. You can go to chat and get into that, right?
I can't, mine's not letting me do it.
I think I just,
separate window?
I went to a separate window and it works now.
Yeah, it would have to be in a separate window, yes.
All right, I'll go rogue and try something different.
Let me know when you're having fun, Susan.
No, not yet, but I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the study session.
Oh, look at that. I'm trying something different. Okay. All right. Oh, boy. Can go back. Wow. Okay. Got it.
All right, it's 6:15. Everybody there?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey there, Chair.
Okay, we'll reconvene to study session. Everybody's here. We already pledged the flag, so we'll circumvent that, and then we'll go to reports. Is Ms. Katoski in with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Ms. Katoski, your report is local control and accountability plan, input received and recommendations. You have the floor.
Thank you, President Nava, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. I have with me tonight Raphael Seha, and he will be presenting with me. And I just beg your forgiveness as we kind of struggle through our first study session with this virtual meeting. but we hope to, after we do our presentation, if it is acceptable to the board president, to include each of our unit presidents to make a comment or two before we do board discussion. If that is acceptable, we can start. I guess I sound like I'm negotiating, but I'm not.
By all means, Lisa, you have the floor and you can get those people to report.
Okay, so I just shared my screen, I believe, with everybody. So you should see our executive summary that we posted for the study session. I will be clicking through the slides, and I will be asking Dr. Ceja, Raphael Ceja, to say a few words first about the status of the LCAP, and because of this coronavirus pandemic, it's kind of made some concerns and issues. So if Raphael, if you'd like to share a little bit about the status of the LCAP for us.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. President Nava, Dr. Washer, members of the board. So with the current social distancing guidelines and the school and business closures, with these new developments, it really becomes increasingly challenging to involve parent groups in the LCAP process. The intent of the LCAP process is to involve parent groups in helping guide the direction of the district. With all meetings going virtually, there are equity issues that arise for some of our parents who are not able to participate in virtual meetings. Due to these challenges, the California Department of Education is determining the best way to move forward. Since the LCAP is tied to budget development, it really would take a decree from the governor to make any changes to the LCAP process. The CDE has put out an email, an invitation to a webinar that's going to happen next week on Tuesday, April 21st. And we're anticipating that we will receive more guidance to any changes to the LCAP development process due to our COVID-19 restrictions. So, I'll share out after the webinar with the board and with district office staff what the new changes are. All right, I'll turn it back to Lisa.
So, as it stands right now, our LCAP for the 2021 school year is what we're looking at, and it will hopefully maintain or look similar to some of our previous LCAPs. There will be some changes to the actual design. That's not probably something new to board members that have been on the board for a long time. It seems like every year I say the same thing, that they're changing the format slightly. And I will be very interested to know if the LCAP process will slow down a bit. With tonight's study session, we usually try to include a member from our two committees, and we have reached out. We thought we had at least one parent, but this whole virtual thing and meeting and internet has made them a little nervous, and so they really couldn't participate in this, and we told them that was perfectly acceptable. So now that I've said that, I want to share with you that we met, Raphael and I met with all of the bargaining units since the beginning of school, and all of the LCAP committees at least 3 times. And of that, we asked 2 questions. And we asked these questions, identifying actions and services to keep or expand, and identifying actions and services to eliminate or reduce. And one of the, why we were asking those questions is we were getting indications that our budget for LCAP might be reduced. And I think Mr. Khan will share a little bit later about why we felt that the budget for LCAP would be reduced going forward. We also did a parent thought exchange, what we are asking our parents, what we are doing well and what we can focus on to improve. We did get some, we we got more parent involvement through the thought exchange than we did through any of our community forums, even though, we can always increase that. The common responses that we received to keep or expand through those were increasing counseling services at our elementary schools and increasing school safety and security. The LCAP committees were the only ones that provided a response to reduce or eliminate anything. And they felt that the training that we had provided for our staff in how to provide a welcoming manner to the district, to district facilities, potentially could be something that we would not do in the future. Okay. Looks like I'm frozen. Okay, so with the common actions from the bargaining units, all of the bargaining units, I believe, felt that increasing elementary counseling supported our needs of students experiencing difficulties in schools, safety and security measures, and increasing community liaison support as a bridge between home and school. None of the bargaining groups recommended any decreases. I'm going to turn it over to Raphael now to share what the LCAP committees had shared as we met with them.
All right, thank you, Lisa. So we did meet with our DAC and our DLAC parent groups, and we participated in a few activities for them to identify, which actions were high priorities for them and which actions, we could either decrease or eliminate. And so some of the areas that they identified, they really did want to have more access to materials and textbooks. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I'm reading, we started with the decrease. So they wanted to decrease some of the materials and textbooks that are available. I'm not sure where that direction was coming from, but that was something that they indicated. They also identified decreasing AVID programs or AVID-like strategies. They also, like the bargaining groups, indicated the welcoming visitors in a welcoming manner could be decreased. And I'm not going to read through each and every one, but technology, devices they thought could also be decreased, and also some of the facilities needs could be decreased. Some of their highest priorities, they really wanted to provide supplemental intervention. So that was an area where they wanted to, both of the parent groups wanted to provide more interventions for our students. They also, both of the parent groups wanted to maintain class sizes at K-12, maintain the smaller class sizes that we've established. They also, one of their high priorities for both groups was to provide counseling services.
Thank you so much.
And you can see some of the other actions on there. They wanted to provide additional supports for English learners, supplemental coaching support for our teachers, and then also increased parent involvement opportunities. That's great that our parents want to continue to be involved in the educational process. And the final one was community liaison support. They're really seeing the benefit of the community liaisons, and they would like those to be increased. All right, next slide. All right, and as Lisa said, we did put out a thought exchange to our parents where they were able to, share their thoughts on how we can prioritize our LCPF dollars. They also were able to rate the ideas shared by other parents, and you can see on here some of those same ideas shine through that were on the previous page. Counseling is a big priority for parents. They also, you can see school safety is the fourth item was a big priority. They want to make sure that their kids are safe. The first item on the list, elementary vice principals, I think, also is probably related to that school safety, just making sure we have appropriate administration at all of our sites. They really appreciate that music instruction is still part of the curriculum. And then let's see, the last two, just making sure our facilities are, clean and in good repair. And then a big priority for our parents is also providing science camp. They wanted, that extracurricular activity for their children. All right, next slide. All right, and I think this is over to Leonard. Lisa, do you want to share about the budget?
Mr. Connor, are you there? Could you speak to the budget implications?
If I could say I had no idea, I would say it, but there are several things we know. This is not a minor event economically that we're going through. The board may have read that some states are predicting what might be well described as catastrophe. State of Nevada, I read today, has cut its 1920 budget by 4%, and they're currently arguing over whether 2021 should be down 6% to 14%. I read that state of Arizona, who just a month ago was projecting a $1 billion surplus 1920, is now forecasting a $1.1 billion deficit in 2021. That said, we're California. Governor Brown left us with a $16 billion reserve, and as of January, Governor Newsom was trying to move that up to 21 billion. That remains to be seen whether he can do it in this environment. So that reserve will likely, in terms of K-12, will likely preserve our prior year guarantee. But just today, San Joaquin County Office of Ed Business Services issued a report on county districts at just a zero COLA in the 2021 year and the 21-22 year, which would reduce our projected revenue, Lodi Unified's projected revenue, even at second interim, by $20 million over the 2 years. So much remains to be seen, but there are probably some difficult times ahead of us. The board was well aware that we were in a pretty marked enrollment decline going into COVID-19. The fact that governor's budget in January had projected $30 billion worth of 2021 capital gains taxes is called into question even now after a pretty remarkable rally in the stock market. Market's still well below where it was when January budget was published. I think the slide before the board is accurate. We can certainly afford our bills next year, but we do need to begin the discussion on the economic data that I'm sure we'll start encountering in the near future. Be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Any board members have any questions?
I do. Ron Heberle.
Yeah, Mr. Everly.
Under budget implications, declining enrollment, the second bullet point talks about LCPF and supplemental and concentration funds per student. And it shows $10,607. So can you explain that $10,000, please?
If you give me just a moment, I'll have to refer to my dartboard. I'll get you accurate numbers. And I think I understand the question correctly, Mr. Heberly, that you want a component breakdown of that number?
I just was curious, is that $10,000 for the groupings of students that fall under concentration and supplemental?
It's the full fund, it's full funding, sir. For instance, K3, kindergarten through third grade base grant or base revenue per child is 7,702. That's adjusted upwards by the grade span adjustment by $800 to 8,500. And then on top of that are the supplemental and concentration grants, supplemental being 20% of the adjusted base grant. That includes this grade span adjustment. And then the concentration grant is 50% above the 55% unduplicated pupil percentage threshold.
Okay.
So it's all LCFF, base grant, and supplemental and concentration funding.
And if I may add to that, with our supplemental and concentration, our English learners are a big factor of the funding, and we are reducing the number of English learners. We have in the last couple of years reclassified a large percent of English learners, and when we do that, we kind of punish ourselves because we get less funding because we have less English learners. Am I correct, Mr. Khan?
You are. I mean, that was, I believe, a statewide goal of the Brown administration was to reclassify English learners at least a lot faster than we had been doing so statewide in the past. I will add, I don't want to label this as good news, but even a month and a half ago, we were concerned about the minimum wage increases reducing the free and reduced counts or the unduplicated pupil percentage counts going forward. I have to say with, in 3 weeks' time, 17 million Americans filing for unemployment claims, that's probably a concern that may not survive into 2021, but it does have a positive budget impact or funding impact for a district like Lodi Unified.
So if I could go on, based on the information that we received from the committees, our bargaining units, and really the budget implications, we're recommending that we continue the status quo for the actions and services that we currently have. We move them forward for next year. And if by the grace of God, I should say, maybe I shouldn't say it that way, we have an increase of funding, we then look at increasing some of the support staff that's has been recommended. Mr. Nava, President Nava, I'm not quite sure how you would like me to proceed. We do have our bargaining unit presidents or members available to make a statement if you would like for them to share their concerns or their questions. I'm not sure how you, just direct me and I will do what you would like me to do.
Lisa, they're members of this LCAP bargaining units, so if they have some input, they're welcome to add it to this.
Okay, so
I'm going to stop real quick. Excuse me, Mr. Nava, Mr. Porter cannot get his.
I'm on.
You got it? You got it. There you go.
Okay.
I have a couple
Ron?
I have a couple questions for Lisa.
Okay, did you get hold it, Courtney, did you get my answer, Lisa?
Yes, I did, Mr. Nava,
Okay,
President
let's,
Nava.
let's cover, Mr. Porter has a couple of questions before we go there.
Yes, I had a question on why the decrease recommended for AVID and AVID-like programs.
That's hard for me to tell you why the committee members, we do those as a group work, and we have them do an activity. And so as part of their activity, I think we had them go around, and Raphael, you can correct me, but put dots on things. And this is one of the things that you see here. Those are the ones that got the most dots for decreasing. Why? I don't know if I can say that exactly why that came about. Maybe Raphael, you can remember back to those meetings.
During the meetings, I don't recall a specific reason being mentioned. I know as part of the activity, that is one of the strategies or one of the actions that was identified to be reduced.
Yeah, I am extremely, because I've taught for, I keep going over this ad nauseum for a long time, but AVID is probably the only program that has come through the state that has been immensely successful with students of inequity. And the strategies across the board, they help all students. And I am shocked that we'd be decreasing it at a time when we should be. Is it Christmas?
Okay.
When we should be increasing it, because based on our student population and our clients that we have, this program is outstanding, and I'd hate to see it decreased. If anything, I think we should be increasing it at the middle school and at the high school. It's very successful, and it provides a lot of structure for kids that are lacking it. And I've had tons of AVID students, and I can tell you without a doubt that 90% of them have come through high school with tremendous success, great self-esteem, being in that program. And I'm kind of disappointed to see it on the decrease side.
Lisa,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Did your committee explain to these people what AVID like strategies and our AVID program is involved? What's it involved?
I would answer that question as yes. We do have with our LCAP committees, we do have a number of staff that also functions as a parent. So at every table, we do have teachers, usually representing as a parent, but they can also share information as a professional, as a teacher. So I do believe that that information was that they understood what the AVID-like strategies were and how what the program was. I do want to clarify that we're not recommending that we reduce it. We're recommending that we continue the program as it is this year for next year.
And the next bullet, ensure all visitors receive a welcoming manner. We're decreasing that. I think that would just be standard. Shouldn't we be doing that? I mean, I look at these decrease things, and some of them are, well, we expect that all the parents and students that come in would be welcomed, but for AVID to be removed, and I just really struggle with that.
I think we all understand.
A lot of these decreases, a variety of devices and teacher technology, enhanced workstations, we're trying to decrease that. Better ways for teachers to teach. I mean, I'm just kind of shocked by these results. So that's just my opinion, and voice it out. Go ahead, Ms. Katowski, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, in light of what has happened in the last 4 or 5 weeks, If we went back and talked, I bet that would change now because, we're all looking for ways to make sure that our students can connect and work with their teachers. It's, but we're just sharing what members of the committee had shared with us.
I understand. Thank you very much.
It seems to me, one moment, George, before I forget. It
Yes, sir.
seems to me that those 6 bullets or 5 bullets we have on top decrease should be reversed. Should be increased. That's my own personal opinion. Okay, Mr. Neely.
Yes, Lisa, what are you expecting out of us tonight? What do you need?
We just, President Nava, members of the board,
Yes.
Dr. Washer, we're looking for some direction in terms of are we on the right path when we recommend that we continue status quo with our actions and services that are currently in the LCAP and providing us the leadway that if there is some additional funding that we would increase the support staff as been recommended. That's what we're looking for.
Okay, well, when you look at these decreases, I agree that, like Mr. Porter says, he's talking about the AVID programs, they're fantastic, and we shouldn't be decreasing those at all.
I think
But
that's
there are
right.
other things there as well. I mean, so if you're looking for some input on it, I mean, purchase and support common core standards-based materials and textbooks in all areas of instruction. I don't see us decreasing that. Again, the visitors provide qualified and trained personnel to maintain facilities based on industry standards to enhance the learning environment. Well, we've been talking about how we want to increase that. So I don't see that there either. I'm thinking maybe we need to spend a little more time explaining this to the committees of what we're trying to do, what these things mean. I wouldn't know what AVID meant, before I got here. So those are my ideas on it.
Okay, thank you, George. Any other comments from the board? Lisa, you can continue then with our bargaining units that are on this committee for comments.
Okay, thank you. The first one that Mr. Dean Blout was not able to join us tonight, but he provided me a written document that he would like me to read to you as the rationale for the needs of additional FTE for LPPA. So I'm going to read his words. Thank you, Board President Nava, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. I have approached our administration and asked how to go about advocating for additional FTE for our unit and was directed to the LCAP process. While participating in this process, I have approached the board on several occasions to plead the case for an increase in FTE for our LPPA subgroups. You may remember me sharing that over the past 10 years, our special education population has grown by 969 students, an increase of 26.9%. While special education classrooms and teachers have increased in number during the same time period, Lodi Unified has employed a roughly stagnant LPPA workforce of 130 members to support these students. LPPA should have added 34.4 staff members, 26.9, as a unit over the last 10 years, simply to keep up with the growth in special education. In addition to a growing population of our most vulnerable students, service demands have increased for these students, such as the following. Since 2013, there has been a 50.1% growth in the need of emergency plans developed and monitored by our school nurses. Daily diabetic care requiring the service of our school nurses has increased to 73 students, 15.9% since 2013. With the school closure we are currently in, With the school closures we are currently in, much of our work is piling up because we need to be able to assess students face-to-face and in person. This backlog will only compound the effects of a workforce already stretched thin. While we can plan and prioritize, the obstacles awaiting us when we do open our doors in the fall is more than daunting. For us to accomplish our mutual goal, our LCAP needs to direct funding to the appropriate resources needed by some of our neediest students. That was submitted to me by Dean Blunt on behalf of LPPA. I'm not sure who's on there, so I will just call out names, and I'm thinking that they will have their mics open for them to speak. If we have Cindy Oliver, who represents the supervisors.
Ms. Katowski, I do not see Cindy Oliver as part of the attendees. Not
Okay,
sure if she'll join us.
thank you, Maria. Is Eric Sandstrom there representing LESDA?
No, I do not see him either.
Okay, I know this person is there. Is Deborah Ladwig there representing CSEA?
Good evening. Yes, Lisa, I am here. Good evening, President Nava, members of the board, Superintendent Washer. This is Deborah Ladwig. Thank you for allowing me a little chance to speak. I thought I would give you my experience this year with our bargaining group interaction with the LCAP. I have to say that the effort on the part of the district to meet with us was extraordinarily enhanced this year. The district reached out, Raphael and, excuse me, Dr. Seha and Ms. Katowski reached out to us early in the second quarter and asked that we schedule by the end of the second quarter 2 meetings. They wanted to have a meeting with our executive board and then a meeting with our general membership. So that was very well received. I have to say that our executive board felt very engaged in discussions during that first meeting, and then felt that they were, I think they felt like they had a little bit more voice when it came to the meeting with members. And they felt like they had a little bit of background, and so they were able to speak with members if they had questions and things like that. So I think those things were very good this year in asking us to participate in the LCAP. However, the format of the meetings was very difficult for our members. When you meet with a group of people, some of whom are paraeducators, some of whom are crossing guards or cafeteria assistants, they don't have a general understanding of all of the programs of the district. So we were asked to keep or eliminate programs. And during the opening statements by Dr. Seha or Ms. Katowski, there was indication that money was going to become a factor in how things would continue for the district. So remembering that we're talking about classified school employees, they immediately looked at how much things cost and then tried to eliminate things that were, in their view, were too expensive. So one of the things that you have here in the executive summary, the page that's currently displayed, that says ensure all visitors are received in a welcoming manner at all district facilities. I will tell you that CSEA, I believe, said that we should eliminate that because they saw that it cost $10,000 and they didn't think it was worth it. The reason that they don't think that people should be received in a welcoming manner, they think people should do that automatically, that all employees should welcome any visitor in a welcoming manner and receive them in a polite way. And they don't think that we should have to spend any extra money for that. And a CSEA member looking at $10,000 says, oh my gosh, that costs $10,000. That's way too much money, because they don't understand that our entire budget is nearly $500 million. So I think that we need somehow to have a better way of helping our members understand what we're actually talking about, because a list that says we have 29 paraeducators and they cost $1 million doesn't give a person who's not intimately familiar with the LCAP or the programs of the district any framework. Oh my gosh, 29 people cost $1 million. Well, that's ridiculous. We should cut those people, without understanding what the services are that they provide or why they would even need to be there to provide services. So while the communication between the district and our bargaining group this year was so much better than it has been in the past, I feel like we still are missing, we're missing some type of education for our members, or maybe more of a breakdown of what the LCAP actually encompasses. So that, because I know for my group, they really got hung up with, oh my gosh, that costs, and just fill in a number. And if it costs anything, they felt that it was too expensive and maybe we should get rid of it. We didn't, a variety of devices for teacher technology. Oh my gosh, the teachers have enough technology. We need to save money. Because they don't really understand all of the ins and outs of how the LCAP is developed and where the funding goes. So in the future, I wish that we could have a little bit more education from Dr. Seha, Mrs. Katowski, whoever will be leading this in the future, to help us talk about program rather than dollars for our particular group, because I think our particular group really is interested in having the best program for the student. And we are intimately involved in the program, but when we see a dollar attached to it, we get very nervous and think that it's too costly, even though all of our programs are very important and the students need them. So that's just something that, just as a frame of reference. And the other thing I wanted to mention, now this is from my experience attending the, what they call the DLAC meetings, or the LCAP meetings. So the English learner LCAP meetings. It has been my experience when I attended those meetings that there were attendees who might not fully understand the entire program, like the AVID or AVID-like strategies. But many of the parents are very concerned that when their students are EL, they don't have time for more, I can't think of the word right now, electives. Sorry, they don't have more time for electives, or they might not have time to take an extra, in high school, they might not have enough time to take an extra science class or to take an extra math class that would give them a leg up if they wanted to go to university. So it's possible that there was a misunderstanding with AVID in that it's a schedule hog, that it just takes away another place in their schedule. And my kids need more space so that they can have electives, so they can have more science and math and things that they like. So I don't know, but it's possible, because that has been my experience when I've attended those meetings in the past. And other than that, I really do want to thank Dr. Seha and Mrs. Katowski for their continued hard work on this LCAP. This is just a daunting task, and they have met it head on this year and improved communication so much with the bargaining groups. If our experience is what others have experienced, it was so much better this year, and I thank them for that.
Thank you, Deborah. We appreciate your remarks and your comments. And I'm sure that we have all, well, I'll just stop there. I will ask, is Mary Diaz from Confidential out there?
No, Ms. Katowski, she is not.
Okay, so then, thank you, Maria. Our last person is Michelle for Leah. Available, Maria?
Hi, Lisa. It's Michelle. Good evening. Hi. Good evening, President Nava, members of the board, Dr. Washer, Mr. Seha, and Mrs. Katowski. You know, the last time we met, we were all face to face, and as Deborah said, you know, things have definitely changed, and so I'd like to chime in on a couple of things about how this year's LCAP went. There are a couple of things within a couple of board members' comments that I think we can speak to as we were at a couple of the meetings. So first, thank you for the opportunity to speak to the LCAP for my members. As you can see, there is a couple of pages of LEA where members came together. We had a difficult time scheduling as with the time frame and when people are doing report cards and when they're doing parent conferences. It was a difficult time for us to have a large group of members to participate. We did have a very enthusiastic group that dug deep into the LCAP, and they focused on a lot of specific goals, and with the emphasis of decreasing and increasing, there were many questions. And we had I think a better time at addressing them, and the teachers that were able to participate dissected the LCAP and each of the goals and the pluses and minuses. We were, as I'm not going to read the 2 pages summary on the goals, you can see there where the teachers definitely saw some increases. We were left with many questions, and we did follow up with that evening. Dr. Seha and Lisa had some brief monetary notes on what some of the items under LCAP exactly were and what was covered, but there were other items that it was hard to tell exactly what the expenditures were for. We did note that we had some concerns on exactly what some of the interventions cost and how many students were reached. I did reach out to Lisa Katowski, and she had responded back with regards to different departments would need to be able to dissect the expenditures for those different categories. Unfortunately, that was a day or two before it was on our break, and a day or two before we kind of locked everything down. So we have not been able to follow up with dissecting some of those interventions what the cost of each of them are and how many students benefit by some of those interventions. We did see, and that I think is the transparency part that some of my members that evening were frustrated with, not being able to say exactly how much does this cost. For example, when we talked about the training for the front desk helpers and being more of a positive, welcoming atmosphere, kind of like what Deb said, you know, shouldn't this be automatic? We did recognize that maybe the affect to how some people are greeted in other nationalities might be taken as not as welcoming. So maybe we needed to do something, but it was the feedback of everybody that what we did last didn't work. So maybe we need to look at doing something different. With kind of the opposite of my counterpart, Deb, with CSEA, we did have some understanding of the programs, my members did, but they didn't understand the full dollar amounts and what those were broken apart to. So we'd still like to see for some of those categories exactly what the cost is specifically. Like we know that AVID also includes the training of teachers and sending them to like Summer Institute, but also some of the supplies, but not for all schools. So that was an area that we heard at the parent night that's very expensive, but not understanding the program and who they actually helped. And so as some of our DLAC members, I think they didn't understand that their students would actually be the ones that would benefit from some of those strategies going forward. So there was some unknown in the programs for parents that we saw. And there were some unknowns as to the expenditures precisely in some of the categories that the teachers didn't understand what exactly was being funded. Like some of the PD was out of this, some of it was out of a different category. So we'd like to follow up later with when we're able to have different departments work on some of the interventions and some of the costs per those interventions, and actually how many students are reached. Are we getting our bang for our buck? We do welcome the training that was listed, I believe, on the first page of the executive summary. I'm trying to move my screen here and it looks like I'm frozen now. So they did see a definite need for training for everyone. We did not see on the executive summary where many of our members mentioned the cleanliness and the increase in custodial time on the executive summary here. And we weren't sure if, I think it was, I can't tell if you're rolling up or down. If the safety and yeah, on that page you were just on, was the safety and security having to also do with the cleanliness. And so that was one of the things that all of our members did talk about, was school sites that were clean and increasing in custodial time. There was also much discussion over the different counseling or therapy type programs to reach students, as you'll see on the LEA pages also. So going forward, we'd like to see better identified in the LCAP the cost breakdown on some of the categories. And, you know, as I think Mr. Neely said, that cost for each of the areas sometimes is obscure. It's just a dollar amount and it says training, but what training? So if that was more transparent for each of those categories, we would appreciate that. We did find that some of the decisions that we were making on our input, we did not have dollar amounts to. So with that knowledge that some of those were unknown at the time. And we do recognize that definitely since receiving the email from Lisa Katowski on March 11th about contacting the departments, it was shortly after that things kind of halted. So as we move forward, that definitely would be something we would like to see broken down a bit. We want to thank Lisa Katowski for many years. I don't know if this is her last LCAP presentation, but I know that the format, or I guess I should say the template of LCAP, and it's ever changing every year, is daunting, just as somebody who is going through the document, and appreciate the opportunity that Lisa has given bargaining groups and changed the format in response to needs of each of the bargaining groups, and welcoming Dr. Sehan as we go forward with next year. Whoever is doing that task, I think the opportunity to meet at least twice to gain the information, absorb it, and then come back to digest what would be best to increase and decrease as we go on. So thank you, Lisa Katowski, for all your years on working on LCAP, because it is a lot. And thank you, Dr. Seha, and thank you, members of the board.
Michelle,
Thank you, Michelle. Lisa, continue.
As far as I know, that is our last bargaining unit representative to speak. So I guess we are looking forward to receiving some direction. Should we continue status quo with our LCAP as it is moving for the 2021 school year? Or would you like us to throw it all out and start all over? Please don't say that, but I mean, make some changes.
Lisa, we're going to get all board members to have some input on this. We'll start out with Mr. Freitas.
President Nava, excuse me, I do have one comment. So I'm not sure if it's related to the LCAP, but I have a comment from Jennifer Dietrich. I'm not sure again if it's related to the LCAP. Jennifer? Jennifer Dietrich? Dietrich?
No answer, Maria?
Jennifer, can you hear us? Jennifer? I'm sorry, we're having some difficulty, it looks like.
Can we catch you after comments from the board?
Go ahead,
Maria?
President Nava, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Freitas.
Thank you, President Nava. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Oh, very good. I would like to thank staff for this excellent report, and I'd like to thank everyone for their wonderful comments. I want to remind people that not only did Ms. Katowski do an excellent job with the LCAP, she invented the LCAP in this district. And it's been her mission on this. And like Michelle pointed out, not having her next year to do this is going to be quite a loss. So thank you, Lisa, for the great job that you did this year. Thank you for the great job you've done many different years. We've had a lot of great comments to many different subjects. LPPA needing additional FTE, that's obviously a no-brainer. Like my colleagues have pointed out, the decreases seem not to make much sense, especially if I remind people what our district is about, that we are over 71% children of poverty and well over 30% of English learners. So not spending money on Common Core or AVID does not make a lot of sense for us. I think there's certain fundamental things that a school district has to provide and is responsible for. And I see as AVID, Common Core, all being welcoming environments, all being fundamental to what our mission is and required by this. I know of no, like my colleague, Mr. Porter and Mr. Neely pointed out, better equity enhancer than AVID. I've never heard one person say anything bad about AVID and the advantages that it takes. Right now, there's a push to require the A through G requirement standards, standards for graduation, and so that people could go into the Cal State system. I do not see that working for us, especially with the mission that we have and many different opportunities that we create through CTE, special ed diplomas, and other things. But one of the reasons I also feel it's not necessary is because of AVID. That AVID takes kids that are not on a career path, puts them on a college path, and gets them to where they need to be so that they can go into our system. So I am steadfastly opposed to those reductions. But I do agree with CSEA and the other speakers that, and our own budget analysts, is that we need to save money. And the question isn't really whether we're going to be able to fund LCAP next year, but are we going to be losing jobs? And I think that is the economic environment that we are, the economic catastrophe, and that's where I'm holding my breath. So I hope I am wrong, but I am a firm believer of praying for the best, planning for the worst, and I look forward to doing this. So you have my support continuing on with the status quo.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Mr. Heberly?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Nava. A couple of observations first before my comments. And one of the things that Lisa and I have kind of mentioned back and forth to each other, because I've been going to LCAP meetings for quite a while now. And the first observation is, hey, let's have the state change the template every single year. And I'm sure right now, Ms. Katowski is chuckling because it's true. And it's like, okay, you want us to do this, but you keep changing. So I understand it's really difficult. The other thing there have been some comments from the speakers, and I completely agree, is that the kind of bullet points and the quick explanations, because I mean, it's a large document. And if you don't use the acronyms, it's just this flood of information. And even if you read it, you still don't know what it is if you're not in the system. A couple of examples. Let's say somebody's at an LCAP meeting and they see PBIS. They're going, well,
what is that? Or if they're talking about high school APs, well, what's an AP? If they're not there, they don't really know what that is. So acronyms are extremely difficult. It is difficult for people to filter through all this. So it's nice that the employee groups who that do understand this better than the general public, let's say, that they're involved in the process. And they have to be involved in it because they're the ones that touch it every day they come to work. A good point was that when we do the LCAP meetings, that you really don't get from the meetings is, let's say, interventions. Okay, so you've got this intervention. So how much does it cost? How many students does it serve? What is its effectiveness? And really, you don't get that unless you're within the system in one of the labor groups. Or maybe you're a member of the public and that one item touches you, but you don't know what the other ones are. So again, all I'm saying is those things make LCAP a very difficult to understand document and process. And I look at LCAP a lot of like you look at a budget, okay? It is a plan. And that doesn't mean that it cannot change because situations change. And let's face it, has everybody's situation changed in the last 3 months? I would guess so. So yeah, it's a plan. You've got to have it to move forward, to kind of see where your focus is and those kinds of things. So with that, I guess, background comments, I would agree with the recommendations set forth in the executive summary of continue the status quo. And if funding becomes available, absolutely, they'll bring it back and we'll talk about it and see what we can afford. And that would be great to be able to do, because I certainly don't want it to go in the other direction. So Lisa, for me, I would support the staff recommendations and thank you both for your work.
Thank you, Ron. Mr. Knapsack?
Oh, here we go. I was waiting to be unmuted.
Okay, you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted now.
Mhm.
A couple of things that I thought about. I was kind of curious when we had the parent or the public comments, if they were actually prompted. It just seemed unusual to me to see that they would ask for full-time elementary principals and full-time elementary counselors. Maybe they did, but I'm just curious if they were prompted with that kind of comment or if it was something that they came up on their own. And the other thing is, what kind of reasons did the committee or the parents in particular give for the decreases that they want to have made? I mean, what reasons do they say, yeah, we shouldn't have AVID very much anymore, or that kind of stuff? Or they just came up with that out of clear blue sky? And third thing is $20 million deficit over the next 2 years. I heard Mr. Khan mention that number. That's pretty scary. And I think it's probably scary to everybody that's involved in our district, and something that we're going to have to live with and work around. But for the most part, yeah, status quo is where I would stand with the status quo. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Susan?
Thank you, Mr. Nava. First of all, I'd like to lead with Lisa, thank you and your team. I know the hours and hours I can only imagine putting this report together and with all the constituents that you have. I would again agree with status quo, but I would caution that when this report was put together and data was gathered, it was pre-COVID. And so I think to move forward, I would say yes, but I would say gingerly move forward because our needs and wants are going to change when we come out of this. And so I think flexibility and patience with how we implement and where we spend our money, if and when the money is there, concerns me. So I would back you 100% on this with caution. Those are my points.
Thank you, Susan. Mr. Neely? George?
Thank you, President Nava. I'm going to echo my colleagues' comments, but Lisa, thank you so much. You again did a great job on this. I appreciate it. I'm going to go along with your recommendation tentatively on the excuse me, on the recommendations. But I want to make this point. The LCAP is the district's plan for the money that we're going to get for that year. And at this point in time, I don't think we can predict really how that's going to go for us. I sent a letter to or an email to CSEA today asking for any input on what's going to happen with the LCAP. Are they going to postpone it or what's going to happen? And I haven't got anything back yet, but I think within the next couple of days, I probably will. I'll tell you some of the ramblings that are going on is that people are talking about the LCAP being pushed back. The word around CSEA is that Governor Newsom has been talking about keeping school out to the first of the year, the calendar year. So if that's the case, our plan's going to have to change a lot. I think that my recommendation is that we move forward as we are now, but boy, we keep an ear to the ground and find out what's going to happen as soon as we can and start making changes as soon as we can as well. Now, as far as the LCAP itself went that was presented tonight, I've already made my comments on that. I don't believe that we can be cutting anything yet, and we'll see what happens. We may have to cut a whole bunch. If we don't start to school back on the school campuses, we're going to need to reevaluate our plan again and see what we're going to do. This year, it's a little bit different. It snuck up on us. I mean, all of a sudden we were there and we had to implement this distant learning. Now, we got time before the beginning of the year, so we need to be better prepared and actually run a good distant learning program if we have to. It's better to get prepared now for it than wait for the end of July to come up and us not have a plan in place. So the LCAP, this is an important meeting and I get that. I just don't think we can make too many decisions at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Courtney?
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
Sure.
And I want to thank Raphael and Lisa for their hard work. Just a question to Lisa: how many people overall were involved in this total? Is Lisa available?
I'm sorry, I muted myself so you wouldn't hear me as I was taking my notes and that kind of thing. When you ask how many people were involved, are you talking about community members or staff inside of this district office?
Just total involved in the LCAP. That gave input. How's that?
Yeah, we have. We had quite a number of teachers come to their LCAP meetings that we arranged. We had every group except for maybe the supervisors had significant numbers of, between 5 and 25 or 30 people participating in meetings. And our committee members, we had our EL committee members, we had like 30 consistently at all of ours. Sometimes the other committee doesn't always get that large, but we had a pretty consistent of about 20 to 25 members.
So Lisa, we're talking about maybe 100 people total?
Yeah, and we got probably, I can't really remember now, but several hundred comments from our thought exchange.
Yeah, that seems to be pretty effective thought exchange.
Yes. In the past, we would have probably only had 3 parents come to our community forums.
Right. Now, just a couple of comments. Thank you, Lisa. a couple of things. One is it's very difficult to look at something with a title and a cost when you haven't looked at the effectiveness of it. And I don't think we're doing a very good job of educating parents, especially with all the acronyms that we have. And of course, our stakeholders, are we overemphasizing one group versus another? I don't know. Who's getting the word out, who's getting the push out, because this seems to be whoever can get the right group out will get the right results. My big thing is on all of this is our decisions, our reasons in this should be driven by data. And for example, I will use AVID because I know that that's an effective program. I can tell you without a doubt the teaching strategies and what goes on is a completely effective program, and we really should be expanding it. And if it requires training, it's worth it. Those teachers get a lot out of it. So I'm big on data driven, and that should be included in when we make the presentations to the group. We should also have people there that can explain which each thing is in a general conversation before they take their little stickers and walk around the room. And then the last thing I have, and I don't want to keep everybody going too long here, what does status quo mean? Lisa?
Status quo means that the actions and services that we currently have for the 1920 LCAP would be rolled into the 2021 LCAP. Barring no budget reductions, we wouldn't reduce AVID or any of those types of things.
So then your recommendations that you put up before, correct, would be mute for 2021, is that correct?
Correct.
So you're just going to
I was just sharing with you what the committees and the members had shared with us.
Well, this gets back to George's question is what do you need from us? And if we're just going to go with what we have, then I'm going to say okay with it. But if we go forward to cuts in some of these other programs, then I would like to see the board get more involved because it's we could lose that one thing for $10,000 for greeting people with a smile on your face. That should be ingrained. But thank you. Yes, I'm going to stay. If we stay status quo, that's great. But I would like to see an increase in our money going to AVID programs. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you, Raphael.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Lisa,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
next. I don't want to be redundant on all the comments that have been made because they were great comments. And Lisa, you've been in this district for many years. I think we came in this district together. You as a curriculum person and I as a board member, and we had some trying situations during the war of 2008. And my God, what a professional person you've been all these years. And this is the one thing that is your good thing that you have going is the LCAP. And I really appreciate your work. You work for all the students of Lodi Unified School District, all the staff members that you were involved with, all the people that you guided, and you have left a mark in this district, and I know this district is gonna miss you. And I appreciate your work, and by God, I can't say enough of that. I hope that you will be involved in some of the more meetings that we have. For Raphael, Dr. CSEA, a great job coming in as a rookie. My gosh, I've met you at Live Oak as a principal. I visited you a couple of times there, and then I saw you at Oakwood, and I've seen you speak in different functions, and I'm very impressed with your knowledge of all the things that happen on this district. I appreciate your help, and you were a real compliment to Miss Katoski on all the work on the LCAP. That being done, I appreciate your work for all the members of this LCAP and all the people that spoke in the community. And thank you, the comments from LEA and LPPA and CSEA. Thank you very much. And with that, I have no other comments. May I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, Mr. President.
Mr. Knack said move to adjourn. Mayor second.
I'd like to second.
Second by Ms. McFarland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, and we'll see you on the 21st of April for our next meeting. Good night.
Now,
Adios.